All right, so these are the 2025 transfer class rankings. You're looking at 1 through 10. We just talked about the number 2 team in LSU. We've been talking about what Ole Miss is kind of doing behind the scenes. 24 total commits for them, the number 3 class. You've got Oregon, Miami, Missouri, Florida State, a lot of programs doing some work in the overall transfer portal cycle. Moving on down into the top 20. See a few more teams as well. I mean, some of these bulky classes, like at Mississippi State, 24 total players, 22 at Arkansas. Indiana, once again, Curt Cignetti going back in the portal and doing work with 20 total players. Let's bring in our friend Brandon Huffman out on the West Coast to give us some of your favorite classes. And it's pretty easy to start at the top with Texas Tech. There's a whole lot to like in here. What stands out to you, Brandon?
Yeah, I remember there was a time where Texas Tech had the highest rated class in the high school rankings about a year and a half ago. Well, now they're at the top of the portal rankings. And when you think Texas Tech, obviously you think offense with Mike Leach and you think Cliff Kingsbury, but yet it's on the defensive side of the ball where Joey McGuire has seen there's a need to rehabilitate that roster. So what do? They go after some of the best pass rushers that were available in this portal class. David Bailey was obviously a significant win. They beat Texas for him, UCLA, being that he was a Southern Californian. You got Romello Height, who is a top 30 edge rusher. You got Lee Hunter, Skylar Gill Howard, and they've done a really good job of trying to kind of dispel this myth that Texas Tech only cares about offense. And in the Big 12, where it's been known to be an offensive conference, we saw it last year, they're shoring up that defense to be competitors for a Big 12 championship in 2025.
Yeah, to follow you, Huff, the other thing we talk about with Texas Tech, I think people love to talk about this hypothetical of like, okay, in college football, if we had a billionaire out there that said, you know what, I'm just going to pour all my resources into a program, what would it look like? The closest thing we have to that right now is Texas Tech. And here's the thing about it. They had the number 1 class. This is not just a quantity game. This is a quality game. 13 of the players that they have signed are in the top 200 of the 24/7 Sports transfer portal rankings. They have done a heck of a job. And you think about David Bailey. David Bailey's coming over from Stanford. He is not a Texas Tech type of guy. And I don't mean anything like that. Guys are moving around. That's transfer portal, all that type of stuff. But for Texas Tech to get that type of pass rusher, pair him with Romello Height, like Huff talked about a little bit, they have a lot of confidence in their quarterback and Baron Morton. This is a team that did some really, really impressive scouting. You got to give a lot of props to their general manager, James Blanchard. You think about their height, weight, speed philosophy on the high school side. This is a team with a lot of traits. And you look at the Big 12, who's it going to be, right? It was Arizona State last year, but I think a lot of question marks. Shedeur Sanders not there, nor Travis Hunter at Colorado. There's an opening there. And this is a team that's saying, you know what? We got a lot of cash. We're sitting on it. Let's be smart with it. And let's be aggressive. I can't wait. I really cannot wait to see what this looks like this next year in Lubbock.
Yeah, it's been a bit since we've seen that from Texas Tech, but it hasn't been a while since we've seen Oregon spend some money, not just in the transfer portal, but coming out of high school recruiting. But as it pertains to the portal, they are the number 4 class in this cycle. So what stands out to you about the acquisitions from this offseason?
Well, they got the best offensive lineman that was available in Isaiah World. They go down to San Diego, a place where they have had great success over the last few years, and they get an elite offensive tackle in Isaiah World with Josh Connerly off to the NFL with an offensive line that was pretty veteran last year. They kind of focused on the offensive line with Isaiah World, with Emmanuel Prayon from USC, with Alex Harkey out of Texas State. And so while they don't have a quarterback coming in via the portal like they did last year with Dylan Gabriel, I guess granted Dante Moore came from the portal last year, they went and focused on protecting Dante Moore or Austin Novosad, whoever wins that job, and then to get some weapons there. They were hit hard by graduation at the receiver position, so they go get a Malik Benson. They get a Jamari Johnson from Louisville. And then the key one for me is actually on the defensive side of the ball. Is the Bear Alexander to Oregon move finally one that's going to be a problem that's solved? I mean, we've seen that there have been schools that find them maybe the third, fourth, fifth school is the charm. But again, you look at what Oregon has done defensively the last couple of years. Derek Carmen getting so much buzz right now in the portal. They have been a great destination for guys that are looking for 1-2 years of film to really flash. But where Oregon really did their damage this year is protecting whoever takes over at quarterback for a Heisman Trophy finalist in Dylan Gabriel.
Yeah, attacking the portal is the right way of doing it. And the right way, Coop, I both know it. I'm always going to tell you, your offensive line, defensive line. They did that. They know that their quarterback's young and you have to protect them. They went undefeated last year, but towards the end of the season, you just saw a team that was just getting worn down on the offensive line side. and run the ball. Went out and got Mekhi Hughes, one of the most underrated pickups, in my opinion. Just so you can just sneak in there. And at the end of the year, when you're playing Big Ten football, again, offensive line blocking, running back, running the ball downhill. So when you get to game 14, 15, and 16, you're at your freshest point. You don't want to be worn down again. Shout out to what Dan Lanning's doing, understanding what they went through last year of just seeing we were just a beaten team. We went undefeated, but we physically did not have enough depth up front to battle the big dogs at the end to capture the national championship.
Huff, another team you like in the top 10 is Missouri at number 6, and I'll call them maybe somewhat under-discussed for the most part because we keep talking about the guys that they've lost, but who have they added this cycle?
Yeah, speaking of under-discussed, people forget that a few years ago when Travis Hunter announced that he was going to Jackson State, a couple of weeks later, Kevin Coleman followed him, a Missouri native himself, went to Jackson State. When Deion Sanders left for Colorado, he did not go to Colorado with them, went to Louisville, went to Mississippi State, and now he's returning back home for his fourth school in 4 years at Missouri. So they kind of have some guys that have been under-discussed in the past. And then Damon Wilson, the number 3 overall player in the portal rankings, the number 1 defensive player heading there from Georgia, and then Nate Johnson from Appalachian State himself, another 4-star edge. And so with Eli Drinkwitz, they were expected to have a big 2024 season coming off that Cotton Bowl win in 2023. The season didn't quite go as planned in 2024, so they're kind of back all hands on deck, trying to upgrade the defensive line. They also got Ahmad Hardy from Louisiana Monroe coming in, who ran for over 1,300 yards last year, to go with Kevin Coleman. So a couple of parts maybe here and there, just needed to fine-tune what Eli Drinkwitz has been able to build over the last couple of years, when maybe early on there was a lot of questions about the job he was doing. Now some stability, but then adding a couple of impact players to get them back to where they thought they were going to be after the 2023 campaign.
Huff did a phenomenal job breaking that down. We just talked a little bit of Missouri before he jumped on here, and Bo Prabula is that guy that, maybe we haven't spent a ton of time talking about, but he's a winner. He is one of those guys that I think is really going to marry up well with what Eli Drinkwitz wants to do there offensively. Huff also talked about Ahmad Hardy as well, north-south, big physical back that comes over from ULM. And then the guy that we really didn't touch on, Kevin Coleman. Huff brought him up coming over from Jackson State. Then he went to Louisville, and then he went to Mississippi State. This is school number 4. And typically when you're watching guys that are going to school number 4, you're like, all right, what's wrong with this guy? This was a guy that we ranked pretty high. We had in the top 50 of our transfer portal rankings. Dynamic, originally from the St. Louis area. He gets to come home. So I think it's marrying up well. And, the final thing here I want to say is, and just reiterate, Missouri has really found a niche of who they are. They have an identity as a program, knowing who they are on the high school side, and then really kind of coupling that all together, being aggressive, being, I would say, calculated spenders, smart spenders on the transfer portal market as well.
I love it. There are some contenders that are hoping to fill those holes to get in the college football playoff. Brandon Huffman, thank you so much for being here and breaking that all down for us. As Coop said, you did a great job. We appreciate it. You can check out more of his work at 247sports.com. You'll find all the transfer portal rankings, all the team rankings and things that we have been talking about on this show. You can find it on 247sports.com. And if you like what you see and you want a little bit more of that good, underrated info, we got 60% off annual subscriptions right now. Just use the code PORTAL.